This is my ticket for Luxor Temple. Today is the 26th of March, Annunciation Day, and we're here to see what we can see. John West always says you must enter this temple down the Avenue of the Sphinxes, and off we will go. You can see there the last obelisk, which is left on the left side of the temple, right as we're looking at it. Sorry, the other way round. You can see there the baboons on the bottom of the stela. They say it's from there that the Muslims take their cry for the call to prayer, from the way the baboons call in the mornings. You can see the large Ramesses statues. Only one seems to have his nose intact. Turn slowly. You can see there a stela, a Roman temple, and the Avenue of the Sphinxes. A lot of these sphinxes have now been repaired with stone they've taken from China, would you believe? Here is a black granite stela, very similar to the one which is in between the paws of the Sphinx, which I have been lucky enough to see both in the museum and between the paws of the Sphinx. You can see the sparkling of the crystal here, deep inside the stone. I've been inside this temple many times, and the marvel of it you can only wonder at. You can see these baboons appear to have feathers, and also that they are male baboons. Obviously male baboons make more noise. See here, face of one of the large statues. Very unusual to find one with an intact nose. You can see how beautifully the ears are made and how the stone is actually solid. You can see here the pulling of the cord ceremony, and here you can see an absolutely ginormous piece of black granite set into the base of this temple. You can see here an actual granite keystone. First time I've actually come across a granite keystone fitting into one of these keystone cuts. You can see the size of it compared to my hand. You can see the large toes of this statue with the delicate toes of the female statue in the middle. See the way this is scooped out. And here we are looking up at the massive statue. You can see here the bound slaves with the unusual features and pointed beards. and each one on his chest has a cartouche saying, they say, the location from where and how many slaves were taken. You can see here a particularly beautiful cartouche on this scene of stretching the cord, and here you can see the remnants of a very unusual keystone cut deep inside the ground. You can see these large statues have their left foot forward, and it compares quite significantly with how the columns were at Medinet Habu, where the feet were perfectly side by side. You can see how some of these stones are chipped away and others appear to be more shaped. You can see some ancient Greek writing here. This section of the temple, we are told, was built by Akhenaten. You can see the different styles of the capitals here. The slender papyrus reeds, and there the bulbous papyrus style, and there with the flowering papyrus with the flared top. There's a very interesting effect in this little temple here. There's a niche, and when you go inside the niche, you can hear a very strange whooshing noise. And we will go inside and see if it's working today. The niche on the other side doesn't have the same effect, but this one does. You can hear it. I don't know if it picks it up on this telephone, but it's like it's very like being under one of those old-fashioned hairdryers in the hairdressers. It's a very lovely feeling, actually. There are niches just like this on the Giza Plateau, and also at Saqqara. In fact, at Saqqara there's a whole row of them, like a row of phone boxes, with a stone to stand on so that you can put your head inside. Here's some particularly beautiful depictions here of what looks like a gate. You can see the incense pipe, and you can actually see the incense coming out and into the nose of the pharaoh there, with the, that must be Ra, with the rays of the sun coming down onto his head. You can see up there where people have sharpened their weapons over the years, which shows that when this was full of sand, that was the level at which the people were walking, and that sand was actually a good protection for a lot of parts of this temple over the years. You can see there the degeneration of the different stone styles, and it's actually from looking from below you can actually see how the theory that the stones were cast is easy to understand, because the blocks fit together even in their unusual shapes, uneven shapes. And you can see, depending on who made the stone, the quality of the stone, and that which is of lesser quality has actually eroded away. It's lovely to come to this temple at different times of the day, and here in the morning there are very few school children, because when they come they're just like the babbling baboons. You see this hieroglyphic here with a the head of the Sphinx, and the face looks very much like Sekhmet, but has the feather of Ka and the bar. You can see how deep the carving is here on this side of the wall. A lot of the stuff on the lower walls here has been lost over the years because this temple was inundated at least once or sometimes even twice a year and spent quite a lot of time under the water. Some more of the statues with their left foot forward, very similar to the armies today, left right, left right. And then you see this seated statue with his feet level. It's unfortunate not to be able to go into the back of the temple here, because the whole wall is where there's a fabulous scene of acrobats, but it was all falling off, so they're probably sticking it all back on like a jigsaw puzzle. See some more of the interesting faces here, with the pointed beards. I always find it amusing that all these statues look as if they should be pushing a wheelbarrow. These alabaster statues look to be pretty solid. This is a particularly lovely frieze here, which is crumbling off by the day. You can see here the bodies of the acrobats and all the food ready for the feast. Here we are now into the section of the temple which Swallow de Lubitz says is equal to the ribs, and apparently there is the right amount of columns on each side to represent the rib cage. And up there in the middle of the top column there in front of you apparently is a scene that depicts where the navel should be, which obviously is the same place as shown on the human body. If you look back down the temple, you'll see that these columns here represent the legs, and it's now a general accepted theory that this actually is the temple of man. You can see quite a few people inside today, but at least they're quiet. And here the traffic can see the main thoroughfare in front of the temples, between the temples and the Nile. This is where the Coptic church was, and you can see from how high it is on the wall. The level of the sand must obviously have held it up quite high. Obviously the ancient Egyptian people would love to remove all this stuff, but they've not been able to. You can see the cupola here, which is made into the front of the temple. This area here represents the throat. And you can see these Corinthian capitals. And you can just imagine, being the throat, this is where the chanting would have taken place. You can see here the rubble that's inside the temple. You can see from the workmen here, they're just about to cover this over. I don't know if actually it's the right thing to do to keep patching this temple up like this. You can See the ancient interior of the stones. Just what our forefathers in the future will think when they come here and they see the way this was botched. I think they will be as shocked as I am. See these red granite pillars? In obviously ancient Egyptian pillars used by the Romans. See the light effects through the beams. In the ancient days this would have been totally enclosed. And I think it's in here. We see an interesting scene of a boat. And look at the size of the people on the boat. You can almost work out the size. Apparently, if you touch the phallus here for luck, it brings you luck, but perhaps I should touch it because I need some luck at the moment. You see here a particularly fine face of Horus, giving the key of life into the pharaoh. This section of the temple was used as they say a kitchen, but it was obviously to prepare the burnt offerings. You can see here quite large jade pillars on each side of this temple. The jade pillar is said to represent the neck, and this is the neck of the Temple of Man. So this section here is supposed to represent the hemispheres and the different areas in the brain, and according to the experts, there are exactly the right amount of columns that do in fact represent this. And this is the densest part of the brain where the thoughts take place. You can hear all the Kalesh drivers on the other side of the wall. Very few tourists walking around just yet this morning. You can see these hieroglyphs. These men again have full bellies and full breasts. You can see the Horus over the doorway, and you can see the scaffolding from the restoration work. So much restoration done since the last time I was here. You can see on each side of this doorway where all the modern cement has been infilled. You can see up there where the wall has been prepared for cementing, the interesting style of the stonework. It actually looks as if the coating on the top of the stone, which has been done with the hieroglyphs, it actually looks as if it is some kind of coating. Another particularly fine Horus here. And you can see all these key of life here in a very peculiar pattern. I was listening to a talk recently by a Mr. Goff who said about the ships that came across the desert and had a beehive. This certainly looks like a beehive. There are two curious smells about Luxor. One is the shisha in the air, and the other is the very strong whiff of horse urine. There are about 250 kaleshas or carriages here in Luxor, and obviously there's no bathroom provided for the horses, so this being the place where they wait, this is where they do their pee-pee. This is an interesting feature which is very played down here, but in antiquity this is the path that went down to the Nile. And on the other side, by the Nile, you can see where this comes out. Nice big cobras there. And this is all the stone that has been taken down by different excavators of this temple, hoping to put it back at some time like some jigsaw pieces. This is an interesting feature here because some say these are the tops of capitals for another temple which is beneath this one, which, if the temples are as old as some people say, is obviously possible. But because of the temple above, nobody has excavated it yet. You can see a very odd smiley face there in a cartouche. These are some remnants of artifacts which are quite new here. I've not seen them here before. Perhaps these have reappeared out of somebody's back garden now that Mubarak has been thrown out. See the hewn blocks, the massive hewn blocks. And they seem to be rougher, closer to the bottom. You can see this column piece has actually been used for milling. That's why it's so dished. In my theory, they actually milled the stone and used it to re-agglomerate. Look at all the piles of this stuff here, waiting to be reassembled. And here we have one, lovely big keystone cut. In fact, this whole wall has them. Two lovely cobras there, one with the crown of Upper and one with the crown of Lower Egypt. Here you can see some interesting baboons holding knives, very similar to the baboons that are in the cavern at Dendera next to what is perhaps a light tube. See here, you can see here some of the Roman stuff, and the Coptic Christians. This particularly fine piece of, feels like alabaster. And this writing, which looks like shorthand, is in fact Arabic. One interesting thing is this feature with a large foot. One of the things the kings used to have to do was put their foot on the land, and sometimes the feet, the symbolization of this, would be depicted. I wonder if this is what this is. It's quite an interesting new stone effect there, obviously from the Roman period. I wasn't here the last time I was here. You can see the mosque there, which is actually up in the top part of the temple. It's possible to go in the mosque for a little bit of bakshish to the mullah, and you can get some very interesting views from in there. Actually on the walls of the temple, of the mosque, are the hieroglyphs, and they've covered them over now in glass because they were flaking off as well, with a little bit of encouragement. You can see this face here in the mirror to show you what's at the back. There's another temple here, but it's off limits for some reason. It doesn't seem to be particularly more derelict than the rest. I don't quite know why it is off limits. It's quite an interesting piece there, a little hieroglyphic of a hand, which appears to have two thumbs. You can get an idea of the perfect alignment here of these capitals, and just a general effect of inside the temple. There's some more walls outside the temple, which obviously went up and protected the whole thing. This is the main corniche at the Nile. Let's see key cuts here. And you get a lovely view here of other parts of the temple, and some of the Roman parts, which with the very thin capitals compared to these large structures. To actually have built these capitals in sections as clearly they are and rounded shows they had a very high mastery of stonework. You can see here on this stone how the shape of somebody's feet have been cut, very similar to my size. Some say cartouches show titles and not actual names. And there are plenty of them here, and some pictures and depictions of what look to be tools. That clearly looks to be some kind of a wheel, which apparently the Egyptians didn't have. Again, you can see how this looks to have been applied to the wall and carved at a later time. It's a doorway here inside the temple. And you can see how the walls are infilled with debris. Or maybe these were passages that went up inside the wall. As indeed, there is another one here inside one of these walls, which before it was closed off, I actually went up and stood on the top. Quite cool here inside the temple in a gentle breeze. And you can see there the Muslims up in the mosque, which overlooks the temple. See, moving back the other way, quite a lot of tourists now. You can see the way this statue has been defaced. Which again shows an interesting effect, because the statue is supposedly alabaster, but where the nose has been stoved in looks to be sunstone. It's quite an interesting carving here in the black granite. You can see how the female goddess is inscribing what looks to be a tape measure. And again you can see how it's flaked off, as if this was actually impressed into some kind of coating. You can see the fissures inside this stone. It must take quite a pressure to have broken it in this way. Actually, it's not a fissure, it's a streak of red granite inside the black granite. And you can see the way it's crossed the hand, as if it's a bolt of lightning. You can see the beautiful side lock here on this face. The side lock was a feature of the Habiroos, as well as the ancient Egyptians. The beautiful quality of this red granite. See the different birds here, the vulture and what looks to be a house martin. The ancient Egyptians really respected birds, and it could be something to do with the way that a bird is born knowing everything. How to nest, how to feed, what to feed on, and how to fly. All the things we have to learn, and some we can't. That's the mosque. It's amazing actually in Luxor how all the religions live side by side, mostly in peace. Perhaps we can all learn from it. See those beautiful depictions of the 5 pointed stars, which some say represent Venus. You ever wanted to see a pharaoh's armpit? Well, you're looking at one. See an interesting head there with a turban on. See here, some Roman brickwork. See the goddess Nephthys with the two feathers on her head. One showing the car and one showing the bar. And the little sparrows and wagtails here, nesting in the crevices in the temple. See the way the streak of red granite down through the black granite has been utilised to come down through the hand as if a lightning bolt. And notice the very interesting sword in the belt with a little head of Horus. I hope you enjoy this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Thank you.